Hello, everybody. This is Manoli here with Manoli's Musings. I have a special guest, Craig Borduin. We met online through a mutual friend, a friend of a friend. He's a great guy. I'm happy he's coming onto the show to get to talk to you. How you doing, Craig?
Doing great, Manoli. How are you?
I'm all right. I'm just trying to make it through a day. Every day, man. Every day is a gift. Every day is a struggle. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself, your background, where you're from, what you do?
Yeah. Um, so right now I work as like either a stand-in or like a background actor, primarily on the TV show Cobra Kai. I started out doing, I had graduated from high school. I was going to go into engineering at Georgia Tech. Did a couple years there, and then I failed out. Wasn't sure what I was going to do with life, and I was in Atlanta, Georgia, and that's where the film industry started booming up. So I decided to try my hand at that, and I've been doing some background work and transitioning into, I don't know, maybe possibly doing acting work full time. But I mean, that takes a lot of schooling. So not schooling, but like training.
Right, of course. So what particularly captured your interest with the showbiz of the film industry, to be more specific?
I think it was essentially every day is a different day. You never know what to expect. I mean, if you're the guy one of the showrunners, and you write out everything, it's going to happen every day. But if you're showing up just prepared to either stand in or just to be background for some reason, you never know whether one day you're going to be like, attending a sports game and seeing some actors or whatnot playing sports, or you're going to be in the middle of the jungle. I don't know. They did Jungle Cruise here for some reason, or you could be on a Marvel set. So there's a lot.
Sky's the limit, huh?
I don't know. So it's just random. Like you show up one day and you're doing one thing, and you show up another day, you're doing another thing. Whereas if you're just, I don't know, working like a normal desk job, you show up, same thing, day in, day out for what, 20, 30, 40 years of your life? No, that's not for me. So I kind of like the spontaneity of everything.
Very, very nice. Now, how did you get onto Cobra Kai? How did that come about?
That was very. I think to start out with, this was 2017. It was, I first started seeing the posts, I think, end of September. I just come back from I'd been doing a road trip around the United States with a friends. Flew out to Billings, Montana, where he lived, and we went down the coast and went all the way around back to Billings. It was kind of cool. When we got back, I just started seeing these posts for Cobra Kai. It was being filmed through Marinella Hume, which was an extras casting company here in Georgia. And I noticed that one of my friends had been trying to, I guess it was his first gig as a casting assistant for Marinella, and he was looking for students for a dojo scene for some karate show. We didn't know what it was at the time, so I noticed he sort of reached out like, hey, I need help like filling this spot, and I was like, okay, sign me up. I'm down for it. I'll help you out. And then ended up getting booked on Cobra Kai, and I'm like, this is kind of cool. I want to come back. And so while we were there, they filmed the scenes for 2 days, and then they were like, okay, we'll let you know if we need you again. And so the script supervisor, she came out, and she was like, all right, there's 30 people here. I need 15 of you guys to stay. We've already gone ahead and picked which ones we want to stay. And so she counted out who was staying, and I was like, please be me, please be me. She picked me like third, and I was like, all right, cool. And then ended up coming in, and yeah, it was pretty nerve-wracking. It was kind of I think the scariest 1 month, 2 month period of my life, because you just didn't know whether or not you're going to come back.
So, but I mean, you've been there since the beginning, obviously. You've been season one, season two, through, it going to Netflix, season three and four, and now they just finished season five, correct?
Correct. Yeah.
They must like it.
Must.
So what, did you expect it to be this, I mean, it started off, it was on YouTube, right? So, and it kind of built in popularity, and then it moved to Netflix, and then it was, number one show, for season three and season four on Netflix for a decent amount of time. Did you think it was going to blow up and be this thing?
Absolutely.
You did. You knew that you were part of something good.
Hey, the first season, you just didn't know what was going on. It was just like a small, tight knit, like sort of family. Season two, you're like, okay, we've built on the back of season one. We also have, the Karate Kid movies that I hadn't been a part of, but like, it's a reboot, so you're building on top of that. So that was kind of cool. And then the shift to Netflix kind of brought it to a wider audience. You're just like, all right, this is really something special. I gotta hold on to this if I can. You don't really have a choice. You never know if the story is going to take you out of it for some specific reason. Because I mean, it's been through its up and downs. With I think season one, Cobra Kai's were only at the tournament. Season two was all about Cobra Kai. Season three, not so much. Season four, yeah, sure, it was a lot. So you were in there a bit, and then out, and then in for a lot, and then out. So waves.
So what is it like on set? What's the atmosphere? If you could describe it.
It's changed a lot lately just because of COVID.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Pre-COVID, it was, I guess, like any other job. Atmosphere wise, you get the hustle and bustle, sure, of being on a film set, because before they start rolling, they'll initiate a bell, and you'll hear a bell, and you're like, all right, cool, I'm on like a film set, and they'll ring it twice to say that like they're stopping, and so that's kind of cool as far as like a film set goes. But like, I don't know, I don't really know what you mean by atmosphere. Like, I know it's a weird word.
I guess more like when I mean, do you enjoy being on set? You enjoy interacting with everybody there. You enjoy, you feel like you're part of a family, I suppose.
Yeah, yeah. If that's the definition of atmosphere, then that's for sure. I don't know what I feel like. You show up and you go and I guess like I'll lay out like a normal day, and this is, I guess, post COVID, because I can't really remember anything before 2020. Can you?
Not really.
Yeah. So now, I mean, with COVID, we go in and we would go in on a Sunday, and you go in and you go and you COVID test so that you can work for Monday. So you come back in on Monday, and you make sure you show up at least like 30 minutes early before you're supposed to be there, because they provide breakfast. So you head over to the catering tent, you go grab breakfast, you make sure that you have some sort of nourishment to keep you going for the beginning part of the day. So otherwise you're not going to feel too good. And you're going to be, sitting around, waiting around for the crafty ladies to show up with coffee. You can get back into your normal, like, hyper driven self. So usually wait, go get breakfast, then you make sure you get to set like maybe 10 minutes prior. So this is as sort of like as a stand-in, because as stand-in we were full-time, so we would show up every single day, and we try to be there earlier than we need to be, because the last thing you want is somebody on set yelling for you to show up because you're not where you're supposed to be at the right time. So it's sort of like a self-governance. And so 7 a.m. we'd show up. That's sort of like the actors. It was normally like 7 a.m. So 6:30 show up for breakfast. 7 a.m. you show up on set. The actors show up on set. The directors and the executive producers sort of lay out how they want the shot to go, and that's private. You're not there for that. And then they'll run it a couple times, and then sorry, blinked. You'll run it a couple times, and then they'll ask for everybody else to come in and watch how it plays through once, and then that's how it's decided that they want it to be.
Mhm.
So you have to sort of, if your character has a lot of actions, you have to memorize, or not, yeah, memorize like where he's going at what steps, and if he picks up an object, you have to remember that he picked up the object. That's as far as like a stand-in's job is. And so like if we were in say Billy's apartment and he walked over and he picked like up an object or he closed a door with a certain hand and I forgot which hand that he closed the door with or picked it up with a different thing, someone would be like, didn't he pick it up with the other hand? Because with the camera shot, they want to make sure that they're getting all the prominent shots in their movement. So that's what happens, sort of like they'll run it and then stand-ins will come in for the lighting, and they'll bring in lights, and then they'll bring in different flags and stuff to create the right shadows, and eventually bring the actors back in so that they can, knock out these shots in one go.
Okay.
It just makes it a lot easier for them. So then once we do that, it's like the first shot of the day is like an hour-long process just to get all the lights set up. Then they get all the stuff set up for their like master shot. Then we're dismissed. They bring in the actors. They bring in the first team. Then they'll rehearse maybe like 2 times, and then they'll go for it and shoot. Usually they do like 3 or 4 takes. And after that, they're like, all right, moving on to then they'll do personal coverage depending on what angle they're looking at. They'll try and keep the cameras in the same place to reuse the lighting. And then when it doesn't work, they'll change up the shot. Then they'll have to change up the lighting. We repeat the process and keep doing that until you get to lunch. Then we'll go to lunch for anywhere from 30 minutes to an hour, and then go back and do the exact same thing until we get to the cutoff point at the end of the day. Pre-COVID, I think we would work like until all the shots were done. But now that have COVID, they try and like limit the number of hours that we're like on set to make sure we're getting enough rest for like health purposes, I think. So if we don't finish a shot for the day, then we pick it up on another day.
So, I mean, those are long days. I mean, just for what you described. Long days, huh?
Yeah, it's pretty long. It's I think we usually work 12 hours a day.
Yeah, that's tough.
And if you're full time, you're working 5 days a week, so 60 hours a week, and that's not driving or making sure you show up early, or I don't know, if you're staying late, make sure you clean up after yourself. I don't know. Gets to be a lot.
And it's typically how many weeks of shooting typically?
I want to say 12.
Oh wow, okay. Wow.
Yeah, I want to say 12, but it could be 10, it could be 14. It depends on the season and how much they want to shoot or how quick they want to go through. I think at least for this recent season, we shot an episode in 6 to 7 days. But then as time went on, we kind of took a lot longer to try and pick up other shots. Not exactly sure. It's been a long off season. We stopped filming at 5 in December, so it's been a couple months.
Well, thank you for giving us a little more perspective from your end. It's very much appreciated. Now, are there any stories, any funny things that happened, any interesting things, stories that you want to share?
I know there's a scene that comes to mind in season 2 where, all right, I'll preface this for, I guess, the listeners. I'm not only a stand-in, but I also play Dieter. in the backgrounds of the Cobra Kai dojo. So we're in the Cobra Kai dojo season 2, and there's a scene where Ralph Macchio walks in, talking to, I think, Kreese about. Oh man, I haven't seen the show in a while. He walks in, he's talking to Kreese either about don't poach my students, or don't disrespect my dojo, or something like that. And I think this is before he starts. He starts. I'm horrible at vocabulary today.
Don't worry about it.
Yeah, we got plenty of time on a podcast. Yeah, let me just think about it. But this is before he starts, I guess, advertising Miyagi Dojo as being open. So he like walks in and he's talking to Kreese. And he says blah blah blah, or to Johnny. I don't know whoever was in there at the time. Johnny might have been away. He's like, all right, the gates of Miyagi-Do are now open. And right after he said that, he farted. Everybody in there all bust out laughing because the gates of Miyagi-Do are wide open.
Oh man.
Stifle laughter, and then they yelled cut, and then everybody started bust out laughing, and keeping that take. And I haven't heard that story mentioned at all. I don't know if it's because people don't like talking about farts. Farts are funny, man.
I think they're hilarious. You know, what I think is funny is what an 8-year-old boy thinks is funny. It just that's great. Thank you for that. I'm trying to get the mental image, you know, because it's all so intense, and then just that's great. But yeah, I'm I'm a fan of the show, and just the way that they've managed to keep it interesting, to keep, it hasn't got. I feel like they've been able to explore new storylines and relationships through season to season, and I'm really excited, just to see where it's gone. I think for me, every season's just got better and better, and it's a great show, and I'm sure you're proud to be a part of it.
Yeah, it's very. I am grateful to be a part of it, because I mean, like, could be timelines where I'm not a part of it. Or I wouldn't even know. What if I hadn't even seen The Karate Kid prior to working on it? I'd be like, oh, some stupid karate show. It's not worth the effort. Because at the time, I had been like sort of only doing background work without stand-in work. I just the year prior, I had done my first full-time movie standing in, and that was the failed Diary of a Wimpy Kid movie. That failed, but it bombed. Everybody on Twitter was like, hashtag not my Roderick. This guy looks like Lord Farquaad mixed with pale Johnny Depp. I'm like, all right, over well, but I worked on it.
That was your first movie
that I stood in on.
Like, you stood in on, and you stood in for Roderick, right?
I stood in for Roderick. Dyed my hair black. That was very interesting. I remember after dyeing my hair black, because I had never dyed my hair before. I took a shower. It was like, my hair's falling out, because I just as a blonde person, you don't notice that your hair's falling out naturally. Like, just you run your hand through your hair and you're like, oh, I can't tell. But you run your hand through your hair and you get dark hair and you're like, am I balding? Oh my gosh. Sorry. So yeah, but that was interesting. So that was my first time like standing in. So I wasn't really looking for stand-in work. You were looking for like background work, because as background, you're not really getting steady work. It's rare that you get like a core background part. You're not going to get like some sort of like steady work, because at the time, I think background was making maybe $64 for 8 hours of work. If you're doing overtime, you get time and a half. So that's the interesting thing about like about film, is normally, I guess, in a like a salary job or like a wage job, you have to work 40 hours in a week before you get overtime. But when you're working in film, you get overtime every day. So you just have to hit 8 hours, like 40 hours in a week, 5 days a week 40 divided by 5, you get 8 hours, right? So you just have to get 8 hours in a day, and you start making overtime. So it's a little bit different than your 40-hour work week. So you're just trying to find something that either worked really long, so you can maximize your hours of overtime, or find something that was really steady, because it was hard to find enough gigs on certain days to balance each other out. Like if you were working somewhere on Monday, and then you could also work somewhere else, say Monday, Wednesday, Friday, obviously you're going to pick the Monday, Wednesday, Friday job.
Right.
But if something else is working, say Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and you have a Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and you're like, not sure which one you want to pick, so you try and balance and put days in between each other. Now with COVID, that's hard because you have to also arrange a COVID test.
Okay.
Pick and choose what you want to work on. But like when in 2019, I was doing a lot of like stand-in work. So I was working on, I would go one day and stand in on Ozark, and another day and go stand in on, say, Cobra Kai, and another day and go stand in on like Stargirl. And I've been working on like, the Conjuring 3 movie.
Okay.
So you're like trying to balance all of these different places that you have to go. It was kind of cool. But anyways, I'm going on way too many tangents. I'm going to go back to,
Like I said, you talk about whatever you want. This is your time.
Okay. Well, I sometimes go on tangents that have tangents that have tangents.
I don't know if you listen to this. I'm a freaking mess. Okay, so don't worry about it. You do much better than me.
We're both messes. It's fine.
It's all fine. So do you see yourself continuing in the industry?
I want to, but there is there's a roadblock currently. So last year, you could pretty much work anywhere. But recently, an industry standard has been making sure that you're vaccinated and you have the booster shot. I'm vaccinated because I thought that I needed to be vaccinated for Cobra Kai last year, and turns out you didn't need to be. And I'm like, oh, I don't know. I find it weird talking about, I guess, the vaccine, because of like, say there's like certain health reasons and people don't know that you have certain, health stuff. And I'm just like real iffy about like medical stuff. Like growing up, I would like sometimes pass out at the sight of blood. So it just made like things really tough. Like if I was doing, say, background or working on I avoided the resident at all costs. I'm not working on a medical show because I don't know what's going to happen. And if there's like a medical scene, I'm avoiding that because I don't know what's going to happen. I know it's fake, but something in my mind that like once I think about, oh, it could be real, and I start thinking about the real thing, don't want to go there. So there's like an iffy thing. I'm like, okay, should I go get the booster? But then it could be like we've been seeing like a lot of, I guess pro athletes sort of just like dropping dead randomly just because their heart rate has gotten maybe too high, or maybe they're, I don't know. I don't know. I don't want to jump into the whole science of it all, but
no, that's okay. I mean, like I said, whatever you.
But because Netflix is requiring these, needing the vaccination and the booster, and I have the vaccination, I'm just not sure about getting the booster. And if I don't get the booster, then I can't work on any more sets. Okay. So whether or not I think I have a future, at least in film, maybe I make my own short films. I don't know, but it's kind of limiting to be, I guess, working in the industry where it's required for you to do this. I want to be protected, right? But at the same point in time, I'm like, I've got the vaccination. I don't know about getting the booster. I really don't want to get the needles. I don't want to have to deal with that again. But maybe, you know what? I'll just nut up and shut up at some point in time. Because I know Netflix requiring it. I've been seeing background posts from, Outer Banks is filming in South Carolina.
Right. Yeah, Charleston.
Yeah, why aren't you working on it? You should be working on it. Say they're looking for Kooks. Kooks.
Yeah, yeah, might be something good. I don't know when they film, but it has crossed my mind. Don't worry.
They're vaccinated and boosted because that's what they're requiring, but they're working. The casting for that is, I don't know. I'm gonna scroll through here and see if I can find it. But yeah, I'm not entirely. I don't know if I find it, I'll let you know.
Well, I can look it up. Don't feel pressure to help me out. You do your own thing, man. But would you see yourself going into the creative side of things as opposed to strictly acting? Do you have an interest in that?
Yeah, I think I do. It's been unexplored.
Mm-hmm.
In high school, I didn't do any sort of acting. In college, I didn't really do any sort of acting. It was the fact that it was available as a job.
Mm-hmm.
When I failed out of college, I didn't have any co-op or internship experience. I didn't have any job experience because when I was younger, anywhere I had applied, I don't know, there was a disconnect. I guess I don't know. I didn't really work too much, anyways. When I failed out of tech, uh, you're like, oh frick, out. What am I supposed to do with my life? You're like, do I go back? And so I did end up going back for a semester, but at that point in time, I was like, how am I supposed to pay for this? This is expensive.
Yeah.
So, it's hard trying to get back to the 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 position where you're able to go back to school. And so I was looking around and needing a job and background work. You don't need any experience. You literally just, if it's more intensive, like maybe you're an actor's boyfriend or actor's girlfriend, there's some acting involved. But if you're just like in the background of like the Spider-Man movies, walking the streets while they're driving past, there's nothing involved. You just stand there, you walk, you're doing like minimal work.
Mm-hmm.
So I think I started doing like background work initially, one, because you didn't need experience, and two, I could be lazy, get paid, and eat food. Sounds great.
Not a bad gig.
Not a bad gig at all. But then as time went on, I got bored and I just wanted more responsibility. So I started taking it more seriously and actually going and I took a Meissner acting class for 6 months, which happened during COVID. So it ended up being 10 months. I tried to balance out how to, make the best out of that situation and get the most, I guess, teaching out of it. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't remember what the question was, but that just my I'm looking for my love for acting, I guess. I could see myself on the creative side because I just watched the new Batman movie and I love it. It's yeah, I watched it on HBO Max. It was streaming, so
is it still streaming? I didn't make it to the theater, but I have Max.
Yeah, you should watch it if you haven't seen it.
Okay, I'll watch it.
I watched it, so it's last night. It's a 3-hour movie, so it's pretty intensive, but it's beautifully filmed.
Mm-hmm.
The acting is pretty great too. I know I looked it up and it had like a 8.2%, or not 8.2%, 8.2 out of 10 rating.
Oh, okay, that's good.
And but I like the way that it was filmed. How it's mostly shot in the dark. Makes sense, Batman. But there was a lot of fancy camera work. Not I don't know. It's weird. It's weird talking about fancy, but like, because I don't know exactly.
It caught your eye.
I know what I like, but I can't talk about what I like because I don't know the exact descriptors because I never learned.
Right. Well, it's a feeling. Obviously, if something catches your eye, it catches your eye. It doesn't. You don't necessarily have to know all the bits and pieces, but that's interesting.
There's that other movie coming out, Ambulance, and there's
I haven't
I don't know what that movie's about, but I know that the director hired a drone first person view. So I think that's what FPV means. But they hired a drone FPV guy. He's 19 to he stands there. He's got the goggles on. He can see what the drone sees, and he flies around and gets just some insane shots up close that camera guys normally wouldn't be able to get because they don't have such a small, nimble camera flying around.
Mhm.
I really want to see that movie. It might already be out. I don't know. I just was hearing some stuff about it lately, and I was like, "Whoa, drone shots? That sounds pretty cool."
Yeah,
So
that sounds cool.
twisty turns and you know flying into an explosion. You can't send a like $100,000 camera into an explosion like that, but you can send a drone for sure.
Right, and that's how they filmed. Did you see the footage of that volcano erupting? And I think it was Iceland or something. They put a drone like in the crater as it was erupting. Or
No, I didn't see that.
you should check that out.
I gotta go.
If you get a chance. Yeah, it's cool. If I find it, I'll send it to you. But now you're a big Survivor fan like myself. And that's actually how we met, right?
Yeah, through the Survivor orgs. I did an org with Patrick. I don't even know if Patrick's his real name, but his name online is Patrick.
Mhm.
Hi,
Yeah,
Patrick.
Patrick. Yeah. So an org, for people who don't know, it's like you're playing Survivor but online, basically. And I do it. It's one of my more nerdy habits that I do, but I enjoy it. It's fun, and so I also host my own, so I run my own online Survivors, and I was doing the Cobra Kai theme season, and Patrick, a mutual friend of ours, introduced me to Craig, and that's how we got to got acquainted. And I asked him, I probably annoyed the crap out of him with about 8,000 questions about Cobra Kai and all sorts of stuff. But he was a good sport. He answered my questions, and we kept in touch. He's a great guy, and we both love Survivor. So
It's easier to answer questions via text online than it is to talk about it on a podcast when you can't get your thoughts straight.
you're doing a good job. Don't worry. Don't worry at all. Craig, this is not anything. There's no professionalism here. I'm a mess. Don't worry about it. Just speak from the heart. That's all I ask.
Oh, I'm good. Just if I had the potential, like if you asked me a question and like really asked me to think about it, there would be like 5-6 minutes of silence right here.
That's
You
all
can
right.
edit it in post, you can just cut it out. But
Yeah, exactly. So what do you think about this season of Survivor? You enjoying it?
it's taking a while to get into it, but I think that's how it was with the last season, just because they're doing a shorter time frame. Was 24 days, 25 days, as opposed to 40 something. So I mean, they also have 18. They started out with 18 tribe members, right? For last season and this season. So it kind of reminds me of that org that I did play, because we had 3 tribes of 7 people to start out with. One person in each tribe was actually AFK, so they got voted out early. So we started out essentially with 18 people, 3 tribes of 6. So sort of the same, the same thing. I noticed that there's not a lot of like brawn in this season, besides Challenge Beast Jonathan, who actually isn't a Challenge Beast because he doesn't know how to balance. Sorry, Jonathan, if you're listening. I don't think
I don't think he would be listening. No.
he would be listening. But
You don't think he's a challenge beast?
no, he is a Challenge Beast. He single-handedly completes everything. But I mean, just with the balancing.
Yeah, and then when you get to the individual part of the game, a lot of it is that kind of thing, that endurance, that balance, and that kind of thing. So he might be in trouble. But people seem to be worried about him just because of how physical he is. I think a lot of people were talking about the twist, and Probst is always looking for something to get people talking about. Do you have any opinion on that?
No, just always trying to make like you have to try something and fail it in order to figure out whether it's good or not. So no, I applaud what he's doing, but please never use the hourglass ever again. It changed the game. Yeah, no crap. You can just flip a coin and change the game if you want to. Don't give them like 3 days to think out a decision.
Would you ever consider going on Survivor?
I'd be interested. I don't think myself a strong swimmer, so that's my weak point. But I know I'm pretty good with the challenges with the puzzles.
Mhm.
I know they have, what is it called? The Survivor, the Dream Team. That's the Survivor stunt team that tests out all the challenge courses. That'd be
Right, right.
cool to even just be on the Dream Team to
Mhm.
test out the courses, and those are the feet that you're seeing in the previews for the
Mhm.
so they are seen at some point in time, and I do have some sort of background in film, so I know how it goes.
Yeah, that wouldn't be so bad. Yeah, you get to live out in Fiji for
Hmm.
a couple months. Not a bad gig there, doing running the challenges for the producers. That would be, I didn't even think about that. That'd be fun.
It's another avenue you could do. You don't even have to worry about this whole strategy part or voting people out or starving on rice. You could be sitting in a video village
Mhm.
looking at, okay, yeah, okay, we tried this and we're going to try that. And hey, maybe let's film this from this angle. Or that's not even being on the stunt team, but I mean, just being on stunts and just, you know, you run the course, you go back and you have steak and lobster,
Yeah,
go Fijian
yeah.
cafe or something.
Not bad, not bad. So you have some other interests and hobbies. What you want to talk about those? You like to do a lot of rock climbing, right?
Yeah. I used to do a lot of rock climbing. I haven't done any this year, actually.
Mm.
Um, just I had a thing last year where uh, I was working on Cobra Kai on season 5, and there's a bit towards the end of, like, normally, like, the Dieter character, he shows up for all, like, the Cobra Kai scenes and whatnot. And there was a Cobra Kai scene that I was standing in on there that I ended up injuring myself slightly. It's not anything big. It was very. I was standing in for Terry Silver, who's 4 inches taller than me, and to compensate for that height, um, I would try and use either shoe lifts or I would stand on an apple box. And on an apple box in a film is a box that's, I guess, 4 inches tall or somewhere around that, 4 by, I don't know. They call it an apple box because it used to hold apples, I guess, back in the day, back in like the 1920s, 1910s, or I don't know when the term was coined. I don't know. But back in the day, that was the apple box. And they have different measurements of the box. They have the half apple, they have a quarter apple, and then they have wedges. And that's sort of it's grip equipment that the grips use to level out the terrain when you're trying to get like a steady camera shot on maybe like an area that's hilled or that's an area that's rocky. So they'll put in these different wedges and these different heights of apple boxes to try and make as flat of an area for the track to lay on,
Mhm. Okay.
for the camera to do those, like, to pass by an area with someone sitting on, it's called a dolly, for someone
Mhm.
to sit on the camera dolly and shoot whatever's in range. So they use all the different apple boxes. Anyways, another use for an apple box is to make yourself taller. So I had this apple box, and I really didn't want to bother the grips with borrowing apple box every day. So I ordered one myself off of Amazon. Yeah, you can order apple boxes off of Amazon. Kind of cool. Probably expensive, whatever. But I wanted to get my own so I could decorate it with stickers and whatnot and sort of customize it and be like, oh, Cobra Kai this, Cobra Kai that. And cool. So funny thing there was we were just getting towards Christmas time, and the camera guys would be like, they'd see me walking up with my box and be like, silver box, Silver box. Because it was my silver box for Terry Silver.
Right.
Like silver bells, right? So,
You got a pretty good voice there.
oh, yeah, no, I'll leave the singing to you. Good. But so I had this box, and I was wearing the karate shoes that we usually wear. It's like the flimsiest cloth ever. And instead of like moving the box to another area where like Silver was standing, I kicked it. And since my box was shiny and new, it was very sharp. And I the corner hit like the cuticle on my toe.
Ooh.
Instantly in my head, I know I'm bleeding. And then I'm like, oh, all right, calm down. I couldn't calm down. I passed out on set right there.
Oh no.
I got taken. They called like emergency service, or they called an ambulance to come over. I got carried out on a stretcher. Everybody was like waving at me. And they're like, "Yay! All right, he's awake. He's alive." And I'm like, "Oh my god, this is the most embarrassing moment of my life."
Right.
Being carried off on a stretcher, all my friends and coworkers, and ended up going to the hospital. And it's not, it's like routine for me. It's like just some part of my own medical condition, and that's why I'm sort of lax to get the booster.
Right.
I really don't want to push any of that, make it worse if that's a possible thing.
Mm-hmm.
If it is or not. But anyways, ended up going to the hospital, and I was out for a whole week of filming. And why did I touch on this? What was your question?
I don't even remember. Rock climbing.
Oh, rock climbing. Yeah. So
is that why you haven't been doing it, because of this?
I haven't been rock climbing since, because I've just been feeling like sort of iffy about myself in public places, just in case, like, what if I'm going out on an ambulance somewhere and I don't want to go, and it's all because I maybe cut myself rock climbing and nobody else was there climbing with me. So I'd steadily been going less and less unless somebody had been going with me.
Okay, that makes sense.
Sort of like a buddy or a accountability partner.
Right.
Yeah. I don't know. Just haven't found people that want to go. So
Well, I
unfortunately,
would go, but I'm not. It's kind of a drive for me, unfortunately.
I used to go a lot because I lived close enough to it. Now I think it's a 25-minute drive for me to go anyway. So it's sort of, I'm like, it's fun when I'm able to. Like, there was a rock climbing place down the street from the Cobra Kai stages. So I was able to go after work whenever I wanted to.
Mm-hmm.
But I haven't been down there to work in a while and haven't been. So while I have been rock climbing, it's great. It's great activity. It's a great workout. It covers your upper body when you're lifting yourself up, and your lower body, because in order to lift yourself up, you also need to push yourself up with your legs.
Mm-hmm.
If you're not pushing yourself up with your legs, you're really wasting half your potential. Yeah.
And you're also into the crypto thing, right? NFT, that kind of thing.
Yeah. I like a variety of cryptocurrencies and NFTs. Actually, was started investing in 2017, and that's actually how my first conversation with Sholo Meriduena and Jacob Bertrand came to be. It was season 1 of Cobra Kai. We were in the dojo, and I think it was somewhere maybe around Thanksgiving or early December, late November. I remember there was this like stack of pads in the corner of the dojo. We never used those pads ever, but it was a stack of pads in the corner of the dojo, and I wasn't standing in at the time. They had other stand-ins that did season 1. I didn't fully do anything until, say, season 2 when I did Crease, and then season 3 I started doing more full-time. So anyways, but season 1, I remember we had some downtime in the dojo, and out of the corner of my ear, I think they were looking at maybe Snapchat. They were like, "Oh, dude, no way! Bitcoin's at like $10,000." And then, they're talking to each other, and I'm like, I know a lot about this topic. So I go over there and I just start chatting with them about it, and that's encouraged more chatting, more chatting. So all it takes is one conversation to start talking with somebody, and you find your own common interests and whatnot. Speaking of climbing, though, Jacob and I were climbing a couple times together, and I've climbed a couple times with Sholo too. Jacob really likes it, so he's sort of gotten everybody in the crew to start rock climbing themselves. I'm going to interject with a random sort of funny story, but not funny story.
Please.
How you take it. So season 2, I noticed that Jacob had this, he'd like to rock climb. And I had been rock climbing with Aiden Minks, who plays Mitch. We had gone rock climbing because he had done some, I think he worked at, he liked to go to the gym in LA, like 9 rounds, like one of those
the boxing thing, yeah.
Boxing, yeah. So he liked going to 9 rounds. And I was like, well, I'm going to rock climbing. It's down the street from the hotel where you guys they're housing you for the season. Would you want to go? And he's like, yeah. So we ended up going a couple times. It was pretty fun. And so one of the times we were going to go, he's like, oh yeah, Jacob wants to come. And I'm like, okay, that's kind of cool. And so I go and I go to grab him from his hotel room, which is on like the second floor of, oh man, what was the hotel? I can't remember the hotel. Anyways, I went to go pick him up on this, go to his room. He's playing Assassin's Creed Odyssey on his PS4, I think. So he was really gaming on Assassin's Creed Odyssey. He really liked it. And we grab Aiden and we're waiting for Jacob, and Jacob he normally shows up like late. Like he's a if I think of myself as being a late person, he makes me feel early.
Yeah, I'm the same way. And Jacob, for people who don't know, he plays Hawk on Eli/Hawk on Cobra Kai.
Right. So season 1, he was Blue Hawk.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Blue. Season 2, he became Red Hawk about halfway through. Mm-hmm. He sort of had like a change about himself, where instead of like Blue Hawk, I see he's like a hero, and Red Hawk, you kind of see him as like a villain.
Yeah, he's a little villainous there.
Yeah,
for a minute.
Yeah, he's pretty crazy there. So I'm at this hotel. I go get Aiden, and he's like, "Oh, Jacob's here." So we go out and we finally go and get Jacob, and it's like a big open circle, sort of balcony on the second floor, and you look down, you can see the first floor lobby. So I look out over the lobby, and I'm like looking for his blue head, and I don't see his blue head. I literally don't see it. And then we take the elevator down, and we're walking out, and Jacob looks up and he's like, "Oh, hey guys." And I look at him and I'm like, holy crap. Because his hair wasn't blue. His hair was red. This was before we had filmed any of the Red Hawk scenes.
Oh, okay.
He just gotten his hair dyed. And I'm like, okay, all right, cool, whatever. So, but he had a hat. So he puts on his hat. Sometimes he doesn't like wearing his hat. So we go out and we go climbing. And after we're done climbing, we go and get, it was my first time, I think, riding like one of those electric scooters, but I didn't have the app on my phone. And so they went and grabbed 2 scooters and they just took off. And I'm like walking behind them like, okay, thanks guys. Let me catch up. And I don't know. It was just a fun time. We took I took some videos of like us climbing, and now thinking about it, I put it on my story on Instagram. It was up there for about an hour. This was around Halloween, because that was my saving grace, was Halloween. So I put these things up. Jacob everything was fine. Everything was normal. But then later that day, Jacob followed me on Instagram. Because Jacob followed me on Instagram, how suddenly his fans really wanted to know why Jacob was following me. So they looked at my page. They went and looked at my story. They saw he had red hair.
Red Hall.
Who? What? Oh my gosh, he changed his hair. He changed his hair. His hair's red. And like I get tagged in something. So and so said his hair is red. And I'm looking at this and I'm like, oh my God, I'm gonna get fired. I'm getting fired because of this. And so I go like delete it and all this junk. And I'm just like praying like, oh my gosh, I hope nobody sees this. I hope nobody sees this. And thank God, not that there was only like 4 videos I think created or like screenshots of like Jacob has red hair. It was all this like fan accounts and nobody paid attention because it was Halloween and people started posting their Halloween costumes of Cobra Kai and hashtagging it Cobra Kai and it just disappeared. And I was like, oh, thank God.
Thank God. Because I mean, even stuff like that, anything that fans can latch on to, it's so secretive. I mean, even if that would just be just the fact that his hair is different, that could get you in trouble, huh? That's crazy.
Yeah, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm losing my job.
What a thing to lose your job over, but thank God nothing happened, right?
Yeah, thank God nothing happened. Thank God we didn't go to Netflix until the next year. YouTube was kind of lax. They were like, his hair's up. We don't care. It's good. No, I don't know what happened. I don't know if anybody ever got wind of any of this. This is the first time I'm speaking out about it.
Did Jacob figure it out that you would share that?
Oh yeah, because I tagged him in it. That's
yeah.
why.
Oh yeah, I guess so.
And so I remember I got this and like I sent a group chat to Aiden and Jacob and I'm like, guys, I accidentally leaked your hair. And Aiden had a story up too, and he quick deleted his because it had Jacob's red hair in it. I was like, oh my gosh, I just leaked. You have red hair. Oh my God, I'm gonna get. I don't know what's gonna happen. So, that it's funny looking back at it, but at the time I was scared shitless.
It wasn't funny at the time.
Yeah.
Well, Craig, I appreciate your time. You good. I expect. I don't know. I figured. I don't know. How do I want to say this? You gave me a lot of time and attention. I appreciate that for this interview. It's really been enjoyable. I've enjoyed it. Just learning more about you, hearing from you. This is the first time, by the way, I've actually met you face to face. So it's good to meet you, man. Mm-hmm. Again, I appreciate everything you've talked about, everything that you said, your feelings, all of that stuff. You've been a great guest. Is there anything you'd like to say? Anything you want to talk about before we go?
My closing thoughts.
Yes, by all means.
Dear Paramount, please put Survivor Australia back on your platform because my family was in the midst of watching season 1. We got to episode 12 and it disappeared. We don't know what happens. We'd really like for it if you put it back on Paramount so I can continue watching Australian Survivor with my family. Yeah,
I mean, people were going crazy about it because they were like, this is so much better. I've heard so much about Australian Survivor, how people think it's better than the US. And I was going to start watching it. Thank God I didn't because I wouldn't have finished. They just yanked it without any warning. They just yanked it right off.
Yeah, I watched the season before their All-Stars because they had their All-Stars like after their 3rd season or 4th season. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's so like you're like All-Stars. There's only been 4 seasons. Everybody's already gonna know everybody on the show because they're like, oh, you played the season before I did.
Right.
So I don't know if it's really All-Stars, but I mean it's sort of like, I'll give it to them. And so I was like excited to show All-Stars to my family after watching a couple of the seasons. We had watched the most recent season, not the Sandra season, because Sandra was in this her and her daughter, and I haven't seen that one yet. But the season before that, there's just this one character that left an impression on them. It was this, he goes by George of Bankstown. He was a very hilarious character. Like everybody and their grandma hated him.
Oh.
He was just like, because he persisted, like he was like, I don't know. He's the character that made the show for me, at least for that season. I'm there's no spoilers in there at all. It was, he might win, he might not. I don't know.
Hey,
But
it's okay. I don't know when I'll get a chance to watch it, so.
hopefully they bring it back, because it was more. I thought it was more challenge based than whatever they have on Survivor now, because I feel like it's more strategic over here, and that's why I felt like when I was mentioning it before, I felt it was more like an org,
Mhm. Yeah.
because org is, you play a simple game online, or maybe not a simple game, I don't know, some sort of challenge. But
Yeah.
when you get to the vote, it's all about the vote.
Mhm.
You don't know these people. I didn't even know video chat, or not video. I didn't even know chatting or video chatting or whatever on Discord in your orgs was a thing until I got to like the final 8, because I hadn't used it prior. I didn't even know what a couple of my like alliance guys looked like until like they're like, oh hey, you want to get on a voice chat? And I'm like, or a video chat? And I'm like, wait, we're allowed to do this? I didn't know any of the rules. It was my first time playing org.
So you played the one and that was it, you were done?
Yeah, I played the one.
What big time commitment.
I finished in 4th, and that was
That's
the
good.
place because I didn't have to participate in the jury speeches.
That's good, yeah, that's
Yeah,
good.
yeah. So
All right, Craig. Once again, thank you for coming on. It's good to meet you. You've been a great guest. I really enjoyed talking to you. Getting to meet you face to face, all of that stuff. And I think I'm going to close it out here. So I'm going to stop recording. But it's good talking to you. And I'll see. I'm going to stop and I'll talk to you a little bit after this. So thank you for coming on.
goodbye,
And,
people.
Bye, people. Is that what you said?
Goodbye, people.
Thank you, Craig.